Hello friends, welcome back to another Tumbler tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this floral striped tumbler. This is perfect for spring or for Mother's Day, and you can customize with any color or florals you want. I really hope you guys enjoy it. I will have a full supply list down below in the description box. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and I think that's it. Let's go! Alright, we're going to use a 30-ounce skinny straight tumbler from Craft Haven. I'm going to sand it to prep it, and then we're going to go right into our stripes. I'm going to use this 5-stripe template that I created. I will have it listed on my website. I cut the template out of just some extra vinyl I had. You can use stencil vinyl, removable vinyl. We're just going to use this to help us map out our stripes, so I would just recommend using maybe some vinyl that you have a lot of or that you don't use very often, because we're really only going to use it to help us get our stripes in the right place. So I'm going to trim off all of the excess backing from around my stripes, and then I'm going to place my transfer tape. I'm going to use some transfer tape that has these grid lines on it, and I'm going to line up one of the lines of the transfer tape with the straight edge of my template, just to help me make sure that I get everything lined up as straight as possible. With a stripe pattern or anything that has these precise lines, you really want to take the extra time to make sure that everything is lined up and as straight as they can be, because if they're not, you will definitely be able to tell in the end. So take the extra time and make sure that your template is on as straight as you can get it. Once I've got my transfer tape applied, I'm going to wrap the template around my cup, and you can see there I've got a little bit of excess transfer tape hanging off one edge of my template. I'm going to use that to help me secure this to my cup and kind of anchor it down so that it stays in the correct position as I put the vinyl onto the tumbler. So once I've got everything lined up straight, I'm going to push the vinyl onto the cup essentially the same way I would if this were just like a sheet of pattern vinyl or something. I'm going to pull up the backing just about maybe 1 inch to 2 inches of the backing, cut it away. This vinyl is really hard to get off the backing, but once I've done that, I'm going to secure that small section of vinyl to my tumbler, wrap it around one more time to make sure we're still on the right track, and then I'm going to take this BIG Squeegee, this is from the Boan, and I'm going to use that to help me push the vinyl onto the tumbler, making sure that there are no bubbles or lifting or anything. Now, it's not a really huge deal if you have bubbles or anything in your vinyl, because like I said, we're really only using this for a very short period on this tumbler. The main thing is just making sure that your stripes are lined up as straight as can be. Once the template is placed, I'm going to go in and start removing some of that vinyl. I'm going to remove the bottom piece first, and then I'm going to take some blue painter's tape and I'm going to line it up with the bottom edge of that next stripe up, and I'm going to tape this off. We're going to do the top, bottom, and very middle stripe first, and then we'll work on those two other middle stripes later. So I'm going to mask those off so that we have clean sections outlined for the first 3 stripes we're going to work on. Now that all of our stripes are mapped out, we can go into our base painting for these first 3 stripes. I'm using 2 different acrylic paints. For the blue, the name of this paint is Waterfall. They're both Delta Ceramcoat brand. You can find them at Target, Hobby Lobby, Joann's. They're very affordable and they are fantastic. So I'm going to base paint the top and bottom stripe with Waterfall, and then I'm going to go in with the pink. This color name is Fuchsia, and I'm just going to give that a pretty hefty base coat in the middle. Let that dry about maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and once they're dry, we're going to go in with our next coat. Into the next coat of paint, I'm going to mix in a little bit of Mod Podge. Now, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of Mod Podge, but I'm using it for this tutorial because it dries a whole lot faster than the glitter glue or epoxy, and I wanted to be able to work on these sections fairly quickly. I didn't want to have to wait the full 2-hour dry time in between each color, so I'm using Mod Podge purely because it dries fast. Now, because the Mod Podge does dry so quickly, I'm going to go one stripe at a time. So I'm doing the bottom first, as you can see. And the glitter I'm using is Andrews from Peachy Olive Glitters. It's a really pretty turquoise color, and it's a fine cut, which is going to make it really easy to get a smooth finish down on that bottom rim. So once I'm done with the bottom, I'm going to Mod Podge the top stripe and then repeat that exact same process. After about 10 minutes, I moved into the middle pink section, so I'm going to base paint that with the same Mod Podge and acrylic paint mixture. The glitter color we're using for this middle section is Jules, one of my absolute favorite like pinky rose gold glitters, also from Peachy Olive Glitters. It's so beautiful, it's like the perfect pink. Immediately after glittering, I'm going to go through and remove all of that painter's tape. I don't want this to dry with the glitter, because if we go and we remove the tape after the Mod Podge and glitter is already dry, we run the risk of pulling up some of the glitter from the stripe sections, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to remove all of that tape, and then I'm going to let it sit and dry for about an hour, and then go through, brush off any excess, really tap off any excess glitter, and then we'll go in and work on those two middle stripes. I'm going to remove the vinyl from those middle stripes. Now, if you wanted to, you could use vinyl that matches one of the colors that you're going to use in your stripe, so you can use that as a base. I decided that I wasn't going to do that, but if you wanted to make it a little bit easier, like for these two middle stripes, you can use whatever color vinyl you're going to. I could have left that white vinyl on there, but I decided to just remove it and keep everything on the same like playing field, I guess. So for the base coat for these two stripes, I'm going to mix together white and Rosy Beige acrylic paint. Those are both also Delta Ceramcoat brand. I'm going for a very subtle like ivory cream color here, so I used mostly white and just a little bit of that Rosy Beige. So I'm going to do a base coat of that, let that dry about 30 minutes, and then we'll be ready to go in and glitter these two sections. So I'm using the same thing. I mixed a little bit of that paint mixture with some Mod Podge, and now I'm going in and very, very carefully painting only those stripes. I'm really being careful not to get any of this paint or glue on the stripes we've already glittered, because we don't want that kind of messy look. We're going to cover this with a little bit of vinyl striping later, so if you get a little bit messy, it's okay. Just really be careful and try to be as clean as you can. Once I've got those on, I'm going to go in with my glitter for these sections. I'm using Lovelace from Peachy Olive Glitters. I let that dry about another hour, and then I'm going to go through and aggressively tap off any excess glitter. I'm going to seal each of these sections individually with my Crystalac glitter glue and water mixture, and then I added 2 coats of epoxy to my tumbler. I'm using the Flynn Sisters Premium Epoxy. Each coat was about 25 to 30 milliliters. After that, I did some light sanding on my cup, and now I'm going in and adding my vinyl striping to each of these stripe edges. I'm using my favorite vinyl. This is the champagne gold textured metallic vinyl from Teckwrap Craft, and I'm just being really careful to lay these as straight as I can. I'll admit this is very hard for me. My stripes rarely turn out straight. I always have to pull them off and reapply them. No matter how hard I try, it's just a really hard thing for me to do. So I'm being really careful trying to get these as straight as possible. Once I've got those on, I'm going to move to the bottom of my tumbler and add my acrylic logo tag. I apply these using UV resin. I really like the Counterculture UV resin. And I've got these little tags. These say Love Mal. I have a bunch. A lot of them say made by MANIANDMAL, but I chose to do the little Love Mal this time. And these are from Mizzy's Doodles. I'll have them linked down below in the description box. So I applied that with a little dot of UV resin, cured it for about 60 seconds, and then I'm going to go in with another thin coat of UV resin right on top of that, just to help make everything a little bit more even. I'm going to cure that for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to seal my vinyl with a coat of polyacrylic before we move into applying our water slide. The polyacrylic is going to help give us a shiny background for this clear water slide we're going to use. If you would rather, you can go in with another coat of epoxy, but you really just want a shiny surface, so you can use polyacrylic, you can use clear gloss spray paint if you want. Doesn't matter, you just want a shiny surface for your clear water slide. I got these watercolor florals from Creative Fabrica, and I just printed them out, like I said, on my Waterslide. I'm using clear Waterslide from Hayes Paper Company. I sealed them with 3 thin coats of clear gloss spray from Rust-Oleum, and now I am cutting them out individually, putting them in my tub of like lukewarm-ish water. You don't want cold water, but you don't want it to be too hot either. And once they're ready to come off the backing, you can see there, I'm actually going to apply them face down. I find that it's a lot easier to apply your clear water slides this way versus trying to put them on and like slide the backing out from underneath it. So if you're using clear water slide, I would recommend applying them this way. It is a million times easier. Just be sure that if you have any wording or anything on your Waterslide that you mirror your image before printing so that when you transfer it, the words are reading the right way. So I'm just going to take these and kind of puzzle piece them into these stripe sections. It's totally okay if you have any overlap. The goal here is to really just fill up as much of that stripe section with these florals as we can, and we'll go through once we're done applying and trim off all of that excess, so don't worry about that. It's really important when you're applying water slides that you keep the surface of your tumbler as wet as possible. That's going to help prevent cracking, prevent your water slide from getting like stuck on your cup and not being repositionable. So I recommend keeping your cup wet. Keep a wet paper towel handy so you can really keep that moisture in there, and then just move your water slide around, make sure that it's in the right place, and then use that paper towel to brush out any excess water, make sure that everything is in place, and then I'll go through with a silicone makeup brush and really brush out as much excess water as I can. We're not looking for total 100% dryness here. We just don't want any water bubbles to get stuck underneath the water slide. So right after I apply, maybe I waited like 2 or 3 minutes. You don't want your water slide to be fully dry when you do this. You just don't want it to be soaking wet either. But you're going to take a really sharp craft knife and very carefully run it along those vinyl lines, using them as a guide to help you cut straight. And you're going to trim off all of that excess vinyl that's hanging over the stripes. I recommend using a super sharp craft knife because it's going to make it a million times easier to cut cleanly and prevent snagging. I let my water slide dry overnight, and then I went in with my final 2 coats of epoxy. I used the Flynn Sisters epoxy, of course, and once my final coat was all cured, we are all done. So here is the final result. Of course, from here you can personalize further. You can add a decal, you can add a name, whatever you want. I just really loved the simplicity of the glitter and the floral, and I wanted to let them shine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I post brand new Tumbler tutorials every Tuesday and Saturday. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, love you. Bye.